Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam yotzer uvorei choshen oseh shalom uvorei et hakol. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haadonai Eloheinu yotzer uvorei choshen oseh uvorei choshen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haadonai Eloheinu yotzer uvorei choshen oseh uvorei choshen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haadonai Eloheinu yotzer uvorei choshen oseh uvorei choshen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haadonai Eloheinu yotzer uvorei choshen oseh uvorei choshen oseh shalom uvorei et hakol.
Adonai Echad. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha v'chol levavcha v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol meodecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anohi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta b'ham b'shivtecha b'veitecha u'v'lektecha v'derech u'v'shokbecha u'v'kumecha u'kshartam le'ot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot b'neinecha u'ktavtam al mezuzot beitecha u'v'hisharecha למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם, emet. In the Reformed community, we omit a section of the Shema that talks about the consequences of not following the commandments. And that's not because Reformed Jews don't believe that we should follow the commandments, but rather because we don't believe in a God who zaps down everyone who makes a mistake. But I think it is important to acknowledge the consequences of our actions. And maybe that's what this section of the Shema is about. If you follow God's ways, good things will happen and the earth will turn in the way that it should. But as we see too often in our world today and in our environment, when we don't take our values into account, things go awry around us and we cause destruction. And so we turn to a meditation on the Shema. Israel, your covenant with God is made of choices. Holiness or profanity, life or its destruction, you can never keep from choosing. If you set yourself to love God with everything you have, to obey God with your entire heart, God's gifts will be yours. A vital earth, its seas and continents moving slowly in their own way, the rain and sun and snow and clouds forming and changing each in their own way. If God's unity is always before you, all these will nourish and delight even longer than your days. The hills, the rainforests, the ice flows, and the deserts, the infinity of life that nests and grows here on earth with us, every living thing will bless you and welcome you as neighbor. What you produce will multiply in goodness, and you will not lack for what you need. But if you forget God and choose instead to fashion gods of your own, if they spring up everywhere for you in your endless thirst for something undiscovered, you may lose everything you have. Your family and your sustenance, your reason for being, your place of burial. This blue-green earth, so beautiful, so solitary, is as fragile as you are and as precious. Beware lest in giving way to excess you risk too much. Remember this and take it to heart. Teach it to those who come after you. Place it in their hands. Plant it in their minds. Meditate on these things at home and on the road, awake and asleep in the beginning and at the end. Try to find them in every place we call our home. Inspired by a story in the Talmud. They went forth from Egypt on a single night, but next time the miracle will be different. Once two sages were walking very early in the valley and they saw the light of the morning star. Said one to the other, "This is how redemption will be. The dawn breaks with a single ray of light, and bit by bit the sky is illumined until morning comes and the darkness is gone. So the redemption will occur little by little, growing steadily and gradually until the world is full of light. Do not wait for a miracle or the sudden transformation of the world. Bring the day closer, step by step, with every act of courage, of kindness, of healing and repair. Do not be discouraged by the darkness. Lift up every spark you can and watch the horizon for the coming of dawn. Look closely. It has already begun." Freedom in our day cannot wait for a miracle, and so we join in the words that our ancestors sang at the shores of the sea.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדע בקודש. נורא
Tell us who you are, and I will introduce myself, and also tell us what year you are.
Yes. Okay. So my name is Mackenzie Martinez. I use she, her pronouns. I identify as a Latinx Jew, or as my family has kind of coined it, we're Jaxicans, Jewish Mexicans. Um, and I'm a senior.
Wow. And my name is Rabbi Sandra Lawson. I'm the rabbi for Elon University. And so welcome to our conversation. So speaking from my own personal experience, I often feel like I have to put on a ton of armor when I walk into Jewish spaces. And and that has a lot to do with me and my experiences in Jewish spaces. Mm-hmm. So did that influence your choice to not come to Hillel, or?
I think sometimes it was interesting because I kind of came into college like in the midst of an identity crisis, as I think all college students are in the midst of an identity crisis. And for me, the part that I was really longing to focus on was the Latino part of my identity. Yeah. Because I always say, so Elon is a predominantly white institution for those who don't know. And so I always joke that like Elon is still the most Latino space I've ever been in.
Wow.
Because I grew up in predominantly white neighborhoods, predominantly white schools, and for the longest time, being Jewish was the central part of my identity. My family and I went to actually an Orthodox temple because they had a preschool attached to it. So all my siblings and I had gone to this Jewish preschool, and my parents had kind of, it was when we had first moved to Virginia. We lived in Virginia growing up. So having first moved there, this temple is where my parents kind of built their community, built their connections. And so it was kind of after we all, went through with preschool, it was like, well, we love all these people. We like really connected the community. Why would we go somewhere else? So for me, being Jewish was like very, very central to who I was pre-college, but the Latinx part of me was not, because I just didn't have that community around me. We didn't speak Spanish at home. So when I got here, I kind of felt like, my identity was kind of almost a like checkbox. Like, okay, I think I have the Jewish thing down, check. Like now I need to move on to the Latinx part. So I put a lot more of my energy into that. I think initially, like being in El Centro, which is our Latinx student center, and getting to know those people, that I almost kind of was like, yeah, like the Jewish thing, I'll figure it out later. Like I'll go to Hillel eventually. But by the time that I did, it was kind of like, oh, like people kind of know each other. There's kind of a culture around this that I haven't been familiar with yet. So I think in some ways that's kind of part of what alienated me a little bit initially, was kind of this like, it's exhausting sometimes, like putting yourself in a new space, justifying your identity again, and kind of like reforming these connections. So part of me too was like, oh, I have to do this again. Like I just explained to everyone why I'm brown and Jewish. Now I have to explain again to everyone why I'm brown and Jewish.
It's interesting because I've always seen you at Hillel. Like I've never known you to not be there. And so
I go when you go.
I'm there all the time. But no, that's really interesting. And so I kind of hear that like representation matters.
Oh, it absolutely does. It absolutely does, because it's so intimidating to be like the new person, or the new kind of the novelty in some ways. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of things that even though I was very not very Jewish, but very connected with Judaism as a child, there are experiences that I didn't have. Mm-hmm. So like, I never went to camp. Like so many Jewish kids go to summer camp. I never did BBYO or any of those Jewish groups. Because I moved several times during high school and kind of didn't settle into a community, but also I think because it was a little bit of an intimidating space. Like, I knew I would be the only one. I was the only one already in like X, Y, and Z scenarios. So part of me, I think, was like, why do I want to put myself through this in another situation? I feel confident in my Judaism. I don't need to join whatever group to kind of prove to other people that I'm Jewish. Like, I feel Jewish on my own.
I think one of the things that, so our team at Hillel, because we recognize that the diversity of the Jewish diversity, racial and ethnic diversity of the student population is changing. And so we've been having a lot of conversations around what it means to be welcoming, and how we can help our student leaders be more welcoming to all the people that come in our space. That's not to say that people aren't welcome, because I think our students are.
No. It's a me thing. That's what it always ends up as. It's an individual kind of like worry and fear, like, oh, are they going to judge me? Oh, am I going to fit in?
And also, like, one of the things that I've said that we've realized is that, when you mentioned this, when students come to campus, you guys are so busy, first of all. I was never that busy when I was in college. I had no trouble getting to class. But
I go to class, I promise.
But it's just, but so, and you're right. Like, you had your Jewish identity box checked, and you come to college, and there's, other parts of your identity that you want to explore. And I've talked with other Jewish students of color who've also expressed this. And college is a time for, like, exploration and learning. And so for many, what I often tell my white colleagues is that if you have multiple marginalized identities, the Jewish identity may not be the prominent identity that is showing up all the time. And so for you, it sounds like your Latinx identity, and sometimes my Black identity. The thing about me is I try to be in as many spaces as possible. So
yes.
I'm in the queer space today, the Black space today, but I'm still the campus rabbi wherever space.
Yeah. And I think a lot of it comes with too is like how you physically present going out into the world. So you've always got you're always rocking your yarmulke, like everybody knows. But like for me, that's always, the Latinxness has always been the thing that kind of follows me, and it's the first thing people see when they see me. So that's always been the thing I've had to deal with first in a lot of ways, like that. Like kind of that, like presenting that way. And then I'm kind of like, yeah, by the way, I'm like Jewish. And then that kind of blindsides people in a way. They're like, oh. Yeah. That has to do with it.
And then I'll let you ask me whatever you want, if that's okay. So what is it that you would like your classmates to know, or your Jewish colleagues to know, about your experiences of being a Jew of color? And I don't know if you use that term. I think you do, because I think you said that, but I know that a lot of people use different terms.
Jew of color, Jexican.
Jexican, I like that.
Yes, yeah. Well, because as a child, we never knew anyone within our family. We never knew anyone like us. Yeah. So we were like, we have to come up with a name. Like, we explain this to people with great frequency. Like, we need a tagline for it. What do I want people to know? I guess just like the diversity of the Jewish experience is really important, that like not everyone goes to the same kind of like A, B, C, like, they go to Hebrew school, they have the bat mitzvah, they join BBYO, they go to, like, it's not like there are so many Jews that kind of not fall by the wayside, but kind of have different lived experiences and have different ways of embracing their Judaism. That don't necessarily fit with the kind of generalized picture. And that it also, I think it takes a lot of courage to sometimes show up in these spaces, like you said, like putting on the armor, or whatever. They're just kind of knowing that obviously, like, as Jewish people, we've had a long history of oppression, but that it's compounded upon, intersectionality, Kimberly Crenshaw, what have you, that we don't exist in vacuums. So that it's also not the like oppression Olympics. Like, I'm not trying to say like, oh, like I should get all this praise and all this whatever for like, holding these multiple identities, but it's different.
Yeah.
But I like to think that I'm still, as Jewish as the next person, kind of thing. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, like the diversity, I think the diversity makes us stronger, and the beautiful tapestry that is the Jewish people is amazing. And you're right, we're not all lox and bagels, and nothing wrong with those things. We all didn't go to summer camp. Yeah. And we all have different experiences. Elon has students who are discovering their Jewish identity as they come to campus.
And then we have students who are way more traditional, and everything in the middle. And I think that's cool. And I think people want to be connected. And the amazing thing right now is that, for Jews of color who don't live anywhere near me, the fact that I am putting my stuff out there, it allows them to daven with me, to pray with me. I've talked with people who didn't need to say Kaddish. I need to say Kaddish, and so they don't have a community to say Kaddish. So yesterday I turned on Twitter and I said, Jewish Twitter, which is a thing, hashtag Jewish Twitter, I need to say Kaddish, please join me. And within not even a minute, there was 20 people there, and there was thousands of people who watched it on the replay who told me that they needed to say Kaddish, and hope that I'll do it again. And I will do it again, but it's not going to be a scheduled thing. It's just, I needed to say Kaddish, and it is hard for me to find 10 people to say Kaddish. So I just went online and said it. And, but yeah, it's just, people want to be connected and trying to find ways of connection when we can't be in physical space. And the other cool thing is that I imagine many of our students who miss their home community can now jump on a screen and they come to Elon services, which I totally understand. They want to go with their home rabbi, or at least feel like they're with their families. Yeah. And they can now, go, and I can go, one day I was in a synagogue in Israel, and then a few hours later, I was in California. Yeah. I mean, that's pretty cool. Entering a new Jewish year, which it won't be the end of 2020, but I know many people want 2020 to be over. And so I want to wish you a wonderful, sweet new year. And
you as well. May it be much sweeter than this one.
Yes, that's the wonderful thing about these holidays, including Shabbat, is we get to reset. Yes. So anyway, thank you, Mackenzie.
Yes, this was so wonderful. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you all the people who are watching this.
Yeah, hi.